Hi, folks. How we doing? Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. I'm seeing some yups there. All right. Good deal. Well, that's the first hurdle passed, I guess. The fact that y'all can hear me. That's good. Okay. Well, it is 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern, so let's go ahead and get started. And this is going to be sort of a, low key, super cash, experimental kind of stream. Um, it's different than what I usually do. I usually stream on, one of the Discord voice channels. So we're just testing out Twitch here and testing out a few settings. And I have kind of a new setup here on my end, new arrangement of things. And so I'm trying to make sure everything works there. So good deal. All right. Well, let's get started. So I am going to switch displays here to my screen, and theoretically this should switch to my monitor. All right. So can you all see a JS window, or sorry, a VS Code window on the right and then a console on the left? Okay. Awesome. Good deal. That's what you're supposed to be seeing. Perfect. Okay, well, we are just humming right along here. That's great. And I wish I could give you all, give you all first-time viewers some channel points, but I haven't streamed enough to be an affiliate yet. So I was trying to enable channel points earlier today, and I was like, man, I just want to give my loyal viewers some rewards, but I got to stream some more for that. So keep coming back. All right, and two, what we also may try to do is, assuming things keep working properly here, is I may also try to simultaneously head into a voice channel on Discord, so that way folks that prefer to communicate by voice can do that, or folks that prefer to communicate by chat can do so here in the text chat on Twitch. So we can. What I'm going to do here on my other monitor is I'm going to see if I can get into a Discord voice channel as well. See if there's any available. And then I'm going to have to kind of be careful with the audio here so I don't bombard folks with dual audio streams on the voice channel and in Twitch, and we get crazy echo, but we'll see. All right. I'm heading over into Discord. And I see Rascal 2 and T are on Voice 02, so I am going to get on there as well. And then I'm going to probably mute myself on Discord. Okay, so theoretically, Rascal or T, if you say something else, I should be able to hear you. Yes, I can hear you theoretically. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so the folks that prefer to communicate by voice, you can jump into Voice 02 on Discord, and I can still hear you, even though I am, my mic's muted on Discord and I'm just talking on Twitch. So I think we can make this work. Yeah, I'm feeling it. All right. Awesome sauce. Okay, so actual content. What are we going to do tonight? All right, so tonight, mostly to make things easier on myself, we are going to do a little bit of a review of some of the previous homeworks that we did. So in particular, the previous homework that we did for the JS Way, Chapter 4, that was on GitHub that we did a couple weeks ago. Someone requested that maybe we should go over that again and walk through it again. So I'm happy to do that. I thought that would be a nice sort of low-key, super cash thing to do tonight. And also, though, we are going to put a little spin on it because, I can't just go back over something without putting some kind of a spin on it. I've started, kind of going through like the Code Academy lessons that we had for this week. And I saw there was a couple cool things in there that we hadn't really encountered before that are going to be applicable to the stuff that we're going to be reviewing today. So we're going to go ahead and get to that stuff when we get to it. But yeah, so we're gonna go through all the review, and then we are going to go back and redo some of it, maybe with slightly different formatting or put some twists on some things. So. I'm pretty excited for tonight. It's going well so far. And also, too, most importantly, there should be a VOD of this stream that's going to post automatically once I end the stream. I don't know how long it takes to post, but similar to how Leon's streams work, there should be a VOD that gets recorded, should be recording now, and it'll automatically post as soon as the stream is over, and then you'll be able to watch it. Oh, great. Yeah, Rascal says the VOD is already there. Awesome sauce. And the nice thing is that now Rascal doesn't have to do the recording because I know that was a lot of work for them. So those recordings should happen automatically now. And the nice thing is too that the voices are already edited out because those are on Discord, and so I hear them in my left ear, and they are not going to be part of the VOD. So any questions that get asked on the voice chat, I will repeat. So that they are preserved for posterity in my voice. All right. So yeah, the folks that are on the Discord voice channel, feel free to speak up at any point. And like I say, I'll repeat your questions so the folks on Twitch can hear it, and we should have a good thing going. All right, so I think that is all of the boring stuff out of the way. And folks who are on the voice chat, if you can either mute your audio coming out of the voice chat or mute your audio coming out of Twitch, because otherwise we get a massive echo. So just be real careful about that. That'll be a huge help to me so I don't hear my own voice coming back to me 2 seconds later. So much appreciated. All right, cool. I think we're good now. I'm not hearing any echo anymore. So that's perfect. Thank you. Anybody have any questions before we get started? I don't hear anything in my ear, and I don't see anything coming up on the text chat. So, which homework is this one? Okay, so this is the one from, I don't remember the exact date. It was from a couple weeks ago. It was when we had a bunch of JavaScript tasks to do. Let me find it real quick. So if you have, if you have it, you can follow along. 2 seconds. I'm going to go back to the Discord and I'm going to find which one this was. Come on. There we go. It was from earlier in the month. Might have been actually from late February even. Oh, okay, hang on. So it was due on March 1st. So it was the homework that was due Tuesday, March 1st. So if that helps you. Yep, and somebody just posted the link in the chat, so much appreciated. I also have the link at the top of my JavaScript document here. And somebody asked, how long did it take you getting all this Twitch stuff set up? Well, so I'm using the Twitch Studio streaming app, which kind of comes with Twitch. And a lot of this was default. You just have to know where to enable it. So there's a ton of settings in the app. It's pretty dense. But I just took a few hours and kind of went through it and enabled just a lot of the default settings that Twitch offers. So the Twitch Studio app is pretty robust. So yeah, I'm liking it so far. But yeah, well, I'm sure there's a lot more I could do, and I'm gonna keep poking at the settings and seeing what I can see. Okay, so good questions. On-screen chat, follow notifications, countdown timer, all impressive. Oh, thank you. Like I say, a lot of that was default. It just kind of happens. You just turn it on and it works. It's pretty amazing. Okay, any other questions? Alrighty, okay, well, let's get into it then. Just gonna pull up my notes here. Okay, so this is going to be review, but like I say, after a bit we'll get into some new stuff. But it's never a bad idea to do review. I know Leon's going to do a massive review on Sunday, and it's just good to just keep practicing this stuff, right? Just keep doing it over and over again, get it in your fingers, and so feel free to code along, at home. And we will have a little bit of fun here tonight. So first off, let me make sure I've cleared this. I still had something in the console there that I was messing with earlier. Let me save. And clear this. There we go. Okay. All right. So first question in the JS way, and the stuff too. These questions were at the end of the JS way chapter 4. So if you're looking for them, they're kind of at the end. It's just said something like time to code or something like that. So. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write a program that launches a carousel for 10 turns, showing the turn number each time. Okay, so when we hear something like, 10 turns or for 10 turns, the thing that immediately springs to mind is a for loop. So let's go ahead and do that. And if you're in VS Code, you can, get an autocomplete, use one of the autocomplete options here, but we're just going to type it out because it's good practice to type it out. So we're going to say for, we're going to start with let I equals 1, and then for, now it said for 10 turns. So we essentially, since we're starting with 1, we want the carousel to turn 10 times. And so we're going to say for I is less than or equal to 10. And so what that's going to do is it's going to start at 1 and it's going to count all the way up through and including 10 for 10 revolutions. And then at the end of each loop, we want it to increment I by 1. So I plus plus. All right, so what that's going to do is that's going to trigger our loop to run 10 times. And then for each I, what do we want to do? So it says showing the turn number each time. So for that, we're going to say console.log. And then we could say, we could do the ticks and we could put the variable in that way. But I'm just going to say console log I since we're not putting any text with it. So let's save that. I'm going to try to get better at doing my semicolons. All right, save. And now let's see what happens. All right, so we can see that we've printed out 1 through 10. And it's looped around 10 times and just printed out I for each round. Okay, so that was pretty easy, right? Not too hard at all. Now, the next part of that question says, when it's done, improve it so the number of turns is given by the user. Okay, so when we say is given by the user, we can interpret that as it's asking us to set up a prompt. Oh, so somebody asked, what is the I? So the I is really just, it's a variable that we're only using to increment our loop. So I literally basically just stands for increment. And it's just, all it's doing is it's a counter. It's just saying what for each turn, what number is that turn, and are we still within our limit that we've set? So our limit here we set was less than or equal to 10. We want 10 turns of the carousel. And so then for each loop, I is going to start, it's going to start at 1. It's going to go through the loop. It's going to increment up by 1, and it's going to check each time to see is it less than or equal to 10. Once it reaches 10, the loop will stop and it will exit. So that's really all that's doing. I isn't being used for anything else here. But in this case, though, the question specifically asked us to show the turn number each time. So the easiest way to do that is just by logging, doing a console log of whatever value I is at. Yeah, and somebody mentioned it can be a random variable name. Yeah, so this could be technically whatever we want it to be. So if you've ever used the for like autocomplete for loop in VS Code, if we do this, so you can see it sets instead of I, it says let index, and that's essentially what it is. But so it doesn't use I, it uses index. So yeah, it can be whatever you want it to be. Just the standard that you use in a for loop is I. Yep. Yeah, good answer there, Rascal. Yep. I is common practice, but you can name it to something more relevant if applicable. Exactly. Yep. Okay, so the next part of the question is, regarding the comments, is it bad to use // only, or should I use /*? So there's a difference between those two. That's a good question. So there's a difference between the different types of comments. So let's watch what happens if let's say I want to do a 2-line comment like this. So I'm going to say, when I make a line that I want to comment the types of, then I'm gonna do a hard return here. I'm gonna hit the enter key. Types of comment do different things. Okay, so let's see what happens when I use the // So I'm just gonna do that. Boop boop. Oh hey, it only commented out the first line of my comment. I want this whole thing to be a comment. So what can I do? I can say /*. And /* allows for multi-line comments. So no, it's not that either of them are bad. It's just that they do different things. So // // is for single line comments. /* is for multi-line comments. However, you can also use // to just do that and do 2 lines at a time. It's up to you. I work in SQL, and SQL tends to use /* a lot to comment things. So I'm just used to it. I'm used to doing it that way. But it's up to you. And I think when you do VS Code, if you highlight this and you do control //, yeah, it adds just // on each line. So I hope that helps. Yep. And that's, yep. So they said if you highlight it and control, // yep. Either of them are fine. It's really just up to you which one you want to use. So like I said, I'm just comfortable with /*. It's just what I'm used to using. But okay, so next part of this question is, so when it's done, improve it. So referencing this block of code that we wrote up here, improve it so that the number of turns is given by the user. So when we say given by the user, what that's asking for is a prompt of some kind. Okay, so we're just doing everything in the console tonight. We're not doing anything in the DOM. So in the console, you can trigger a prompt to come up just by using just prompt. So we're going to we're going to comment this out real quick. I mean, this time I'm going to use the hotkey there. All right. So for this one, we're going to say let turns equal prompt. Okay. And then we're just going to have it give basically what we want it to do is we want it to give a message to the user that tells the user what we want from them. So just going to say, how many turns should we do? Okay. And then we can also, what we can do in this prompt box, you can see it put up a little little guidance box here. So prompt message and then string. So we can have a default value as well. So prompt message is going to be string, and then default, we can set a default value as well. And by default, all this is going to be strings. But so how many turns should we do? And I'm going to set the default to be 0. And then, so that will prompt the user, but they're going to enter something else there. So whatever comes back from that prompt box is going to be assigned to the variable of turns. So from there, we can just kind of basically do what we did before. So I'm just going to grab this. Uncomment it. Now this should work, but it's going to prompt us first. Yeah, so now when we reloaded the page, that's kind of behind my chat box, but it's, here, I'll move it over just a little bit. There we go. There. So now it's saying how many turns should we do? So let's say 5. Oops, I made a mistake. Hang on. Oh, yeah, duh. Because, okay, so let's look at what I missed. Yeah, because the variable was assigned to turns. Okay, so we got our prompt values assigned to turns. And so we only want our for loop to go for how many turns the user has entered. Okay, so instead of setting our limit to 10 hard coded, we're instead going to set it to the variable of turns. So now the carousel is only going to turn as many times as the user enters. Okay, so now that'll work. Reload that, move it over so it's not behind my chat box. And there we go. Okay. Oh, thanks. Thanks all too swift. Hi, happy first stream. Thank you. All right, so now we can see we entered 5, and so we only got 5 turns back of the carousel. Okay, so any questions on that? Any questions of why we put this variable where we did? No? Okay. And that's a good reminder is that in your for loop, you can have your, turn limit. It doesn't have to be a hard-coded number. It can be assigned to a variable. So that variable could come from maybe another function. For example, I think when I think in some of my more complicated projects that we've done so far, we've had this turn limit maybe be a variable. But yeah, so all these things in here can be customizable. Okay, good. Makes sense. Awesome. All right. So still fairly simple there. Just very simple for loops. Let's move on to, and if anybody, has any questions on here, feel free to, can we do a while loop as well? Yes, we will be doing a while loop here in just a couple of minutes because it is lower down on our list of questions. Good question though. Yep, we're absolutely going to do a while loop. Yeah, cool beans indeed. All right. So next question. So parity. All right. So check the following program that shows even numbers, which are divisible by 2 by their nature, between 1 and 10. All right. So I'm going to actually comment this out so it's easier to see, just so we can see it here for a second. All right. So the statement that we're given is essentially a for loop. And it says if modulus of I divided by 2 is equal to 0. So that essentially what this is saying is if the number is even, then console log that the number is even. Pretty simple. And remember that this symbol here is a modulus, so it's the remainder. So essentially, if a number is divisible by 2, then the remainder is always going to be 0. So that's an easy way to check if a number is even or odd. Yeah, even. So then we'll console log I is even. Okay, so what it's asking there, improve the program so that it also shows odd numbers. Oh, yeah, and Rascal says, and JavaScript coerced the turn string variable into a number. Yep. So JavaScript is also very good at turning, at knowing when a string is actually meant to be a number, because everything we get from that prompt box is actually coming in as strings just automatically. And so, JavaScript is smart enough to know in that case that we're assigning an arithmetic operator to it of some kind. And then that it just knows that, hey, yeah, we're trying to perform arithmetic on this, and I can read this as a number. We can handle this as a number. Okay, so yeah, I'm glad that was helpful for you. All right, so let's improve this program so that it also shows odd numbers. Okay, so there's, of course, like many things, there's a lot of ways we could do this, but first off, let's just grab this and we'll comment this back out. All right, so probably the easiest way to do this is just not performing any other operations and saying, well, okay, it's already logging all the even numbers, so let's just add an else statement to the end of this, because everything that's not even is naturally going to be odd. So let's do that. So now so essentially we have our if statement that's saying if the modulus of I is 0, the one is divided by 2, then console log I is even, else console log I is odd. Okay, so let's run this and make sure it works. Oop, I forgot to comment out my other thing. Hang on. All right, let's cancel that. All right, there we go. So we can see that this printed exactly the way we expected. There was no need to do any additional checks on this because just by the nature of even and odd, all of the odd numbers would have just fallen into the else statement anyway. Oh, yeah. Got a little spam there. It's all right. Yeah, my first spammer. I know. I feel so honored. Thanks, Rascal. Yep. I've got the auto mode settings on pretty high, but they couldn't catch that one. Okay, so we've logged our even and our odd. Does anybody have any questions on why this works or why we did it the way we did? Okay, well, feel free to ask if you think of anything, and folks on the voice chat, if you're still there, feel free to ask as well. I can still hear you. Okay, so next question. So this is still continuing on this parity question. The third part of this is improve it again to replace the initial number 1 by a number given by the user. Okay. So again, we have a number, it's asking for a number given by the user. So again, that's what that's saying is we need to essentially just set up a prompt. So very similar to the last question. We're going to set a prompt and we're going to just we're going to just dump that, whatever comes out of that prompt, we're going to dump it into a variable. So we're going to say we're just going to call this init for initial. We're going to say prompt, and again, got to tell the user what to do. So we're going to say provide starting integer, please. All right, and set a default value for them so they know what they're supposed to be putting in there. And again, we're going to copy and paste our loop from above, but this is going to kind of demonstrate like what folks were saying before, is that, you know, all of this is customizable. So we can say, so instead of let I equal 1, our starting integer is now going to be assigned to init. Okay. And also too, let's modify this even a little bit more. Let's say that init is 5, but I still want this carousel to go around 10 times. So if I set I equal to 5 and I leave this as 10, carousel is only going to go around 5 times. So instead, what I want is I want essentially the initial plus whatever I guess I want the initial plus 9. So we're going to say let I equals init for I less than, let's see what happens if we did this. Init plus, let's do that. Init plus 9. Okay. Now we're going to try this. And let's see what happens here. Whoa, golly. Whoa, hang on. That doesn't look right, does it? Let's try it again. I don't even remember what I said for my initial. Let's do 3. Oh, golly. 39. Anybody know why it's doing that? Anybody have a guess? It was something that was mentioned earlier that Rascal was talking about. How do these prompt boxes work? Oh, Rascal, you got to let him answer. Come on, man. Yeah, concatenating. No, I love you, Rascal. All right. Yeah, Rascal's not allowed to guess. Yep. That's exactly right. We are concatenating. And yeah, so in concatenating, concatenating is what happens when you take 2 strings and you have essentially a plus operator between them. The strings are placed side by side against each other. So essentially what we're doing is I put in 3 in the prompt. It was taken in as a string. And then we said, essentially here, we said, it was basically this here. I'll just type it out. 3 plus 9, which is 39. Okay. Oh, hey, Diviker. Hi. So it was concatenating instead of pulling in. Okay, so now what do we do? What do we do to solve that? And so there's a couple different ways we could do this. The way that I like to do it is just using a quick little bit of shorthand here to convert our string into a number. And all we need to do is just put parentheses around it and add a little plus sign. But there's a lot of ways to do it. I think Leon used the isNumber function or something like that. Yeah, right. So now let's test it again. So now I am going to, and it's still printing my first statement too. Whoops. All right. But anyway, we're going to put 5 in here. Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of this first statement because that's confusing. Then we're going to do it one more time. Okay. 5. Oh, and I didn't reload either. Whoops. One more time. Do I still have something up there? Okay, well, I think it's running once and then running again. That's okay. 5. And then, yeah, so now it's starting from 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And still going 10 times. So, and, oh, of course, yeah, Rascal knows the name of it. It's the unary plus operator. Yep, that's right, Diviker. The plus is a shorter way to do what number init or parse int init would do. Exactly. Yeah, I really like it. It's a nice little shorthand because it fits nicely in whatever statement you're doing. It's unobtrusive. And yeah, that just converts that string very quickly into a number and allows us to actually do mathematical operations on it. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions there? Good questions so far. Is init predefined by JavaScript? So are you asking if the number, if the like those number functions are those functions that turn strings into numbers, if you're asking if those predefined by JavaScript? But yeah, those are built-in functions. Yeah, those are built in, so you don't have to worry about like building those yourself or anything like that. So all this is built in, which is nice. Oh, I'm sorry. I see what you're asking. This right here. Okay. Yeah, no, this, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're asking if that is something that, this is just a name I came up with for like initialize. And okay, that's a good question. So next question is, why does it start at 5? Well, that's because that's the prompt I gave it. So the point of this was to say, like, improve it again to replace the initial number 1 by a number given by the user. Well, when the prompt came up, I put in 5 right here. And so we wanted it to count from whatever the user gave it all the way up. And so in that case, I put in 5, and so that's where it counted from. Yep. Yeah, good question. So if I would have put in something else, it would have counted from there as well, because we defined I equals init. Yeah, any other questions on this one? Good questions so far. I guess if anybody is saying something on the voice channel, I haven't heard anything so far, so I apologize if anybody has said anything on voice channel. I don't know if it's just me or if nobody's really talking. Gotta add to Anki. Yeah, darn right. Okay. All right. Thanks. Yeah, somebody did speak up on the voice chat. I just wanted to make sure that my headphones were still working, because they sometimes decide to do whatever they want. Yeah. All right. Cool beans. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I'll comment this bad boy out. All right, so next one is input validation. And we did something kind of similar to this for the number guessing game that we made. Essentially, it looks at whatever the user puts in and then performs an action based on that input. In this case, we're just going to do it in the console. We're going to just look at whatever the user puts in a prompt and then perform actions based on that. So this question says, write a program that continues to ask the user for a number until the entered number is less than or equal to 100. So it's going to continue. We want it to continue asking for a prompt, continue reprompting while the user keeps entering numbers that are less than or equal to 100. So I kind of gave it away there, but what kind of, obviously we need a loop of some kind, but what kind of loop do we need? Anybody, Bueller. What kind of loop? Yes, we are going to need a while loop, because we want to say while the user keeps entering numbers that don't meet the criteria, then we want to keep prompting them over and over and over again until they get it right. Okay, so and we kind of did that like when we did our number guessing game, right? Because we wanted the user to keep being able to enter information. We didn't use a while loop for that because they had buttons to click, but we want the user to keep being able to enter information and give them feedback until they got it right. So write a program that continues to ask the user for a number until the entered number is less than or equal to 100. Okay, so first we're just going to define a starter here. So we're going to say let number, well, hang on. We're going to say let user guess equals, we'll set it to 101 for now because we want it to give them that prompt. So the first, we're just going to give it a starter value so it prompts the user, and then we're going to say while user guess is greater than or equal to 100, then user guess, we're going to set that to whatever the user guesses next time. So prompt is going to be enter an integer. And we're going to make it hard on them. We're not going to tell them what they should be doing. And then we're going to set the default value as 0, but they will be changing that. So actually, no, we're going to set the default value at like 200, something high. So that way, if they enter the default, it'll prompt them again. Okay. Oh, hi, Indifferent Ghost. Cool. So user guess is set to 101. So while user guess is greater than or equal to 100, the user guess is going to keep prompting them over and over. So let's try that. I'm going to make sure I commented everything else out first. Okay. All right. So let's just enter the default. We're going to enter 200. Oh, it's going to prompt again and again and again and again and again forever. So let's change it now. Let's say 101. Yep. So we could go forever like this. As long as the criteria aren't being met, we're going to keep getting prompted. But now let's enter 99. Hey, it went away. Awesome. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, right? Like while loops are pretty nice. The important thing though is when you're writing a while loop, you want to make sure that, it can be easy to get stuck in a while loop forever if you don't have any criteria that are going to get you out of it. So like if you're incrementing or something like that, you always want to make sure that you have, like if we were saying like, if we were using like a, an I operator and incrementing through this, if we said like while I is, less than or equal to 100, and then we didn't have some sort of an increment that would go up at the bottom of this, then you could get stuck in an infinite loop. In this case, it's not so bad because we know exactly, we're using a prompt to get out of it. But yeah, while loops can be a little bit more dangerous than for loops. And so I don't use them all that often. But they're useful for something like this. Okay. Is it possible to move the chat overlay down a little bit? Oh, I apologize. Yeah. Let me see if I can do that for you. Hang on one second. Okay, it should be now down to, I'm going to save this. Okay, I've moved it down. Is that better? Yeah, all right, awesome. Okay, so, and I'll make that so there's some sort of, after this stream, I'll adjust that so there's some kind of timeout on the chat so they don't stay up there forever. That's just the default setting. Okay, so yes, the question was, because user guess is using the while loop, what is the 200 for if the input is going to be something else? It's just a default value. We don't necessarily have to have a default value there. But in this case, we wanted our while loop to stay up as long as the user guess was more than 100. And so I just put 200 in there as the default value. We could have put 0 if you wanted. And so that way, like if we did that, and so now the default value is 0. And so if we say if we don't enter anything, we just say okay, then we're out of the loop. It goes away. Yeah. And so the question was, in this case, if it is set to 0, does that prevent the prompt? Nope. It's just the default, because up here, if you recall up here, we actually set the initial value of user guess to 101. So this 0 has not been passed until the user clicks OK on the prompt. It's just a default value. It's not set to anything at the moment. We set the actual user guess variable at the start to 101. So this prompt will always show up. Does that help? I know it's a little confusing, but this what we're putting here, this is just a default value, and it's not been assigned to our user guess value, to our user guess variable yet. Okay, awesome. All right, so when we are done with the above, improve the program so that the terminating number, so by that they mean the number that causes the while loop to end, so that the terminating number is between 50 and 100. So what that's saying is that if the user enters a number between 50 and 100, we want the while loop to end. Okay, so let's pop that in there now. Let's say, yeah, between 50 and, yeah. Okay, so comment this out. Between 50 and 100 will cause the while loop to end. So we want the while loop to continue while the user guess is less than 100, or when it's greater, or sorry, when it is less than 50. Yeah. So that sounds to me like we need some kind of an or statement in here. So we are going to say while user guess is greater than 100. Okay, so that takes care of half of it. And then we're going to use our or operator here, which is the two pipes. We're going to say while user guess is greater than 100, or while user guess is less than 50, then keep prompting. If they give anything in between those two numbers, then end the loop. Okay, so let's try that. All right, gonna enter 200. Yep, get prompted again. So it hit this first condition here while user guess is greater than 100. So now let's hit the second condition. I'm just gonna leave that 0 in there. Yep, so that passed in the 0. So it passed the first condition, but it hit the second condition. And since we have this or statement here, it basically said, oh, or user guess is less than 50. Okay, I'm gonna keep prompting. So now let's put it to 60. Yep, we're out of the loop. So the question was and or ampersand or pipe. So yeah, in this case, the two pipe symbols here, they mean or. If we said ampersand, that would be equivalent to and. But we don't want that in this case. We want or, because these are two mutually exclusive conditions. Oh, okay. Yeah, good answer. Yep. So no, that's all right. No worries. You didn't get ahead of yourself. No worries. So yeah, in this case, we wanted the or operator. You're exactly right. That makes sense? Okay, good deal. Feel free to ask questions if you have them at any point. Okay, good deal. All right, so next thing, multiplication table. We're getting into something a little bit different here. So write a program that asks the user for a number, then shows the multiplication table for this number. So this takes a little bit of out of the box thinking a little bit, but let's go ahead and comment this previous thing out here. So what is a times table? So a times table is essentially just, like kind of like what you learn in elementary school, that, where you take basically a number from, 1 to 10, and then you multiply it again by all the other numbers from 1 to 10. So, 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 2 is 14, 7 times 3 is 21, blah, 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 all the way up. And so in this case, that's essentially what we're being asked to build. So for the number that the user provides, we want to then multiply it by all the integers from 1 to 10. Well, that sounds a little familiar, right? because we've already done something that loops through all of the numbers from 1 to 10 and then prints them back to us. So yeah, more like a multiplication row or column. Sure, yep. And so all we need to do here is essentially use our ability to make a for loop, which runs through the integers from 1 to 10, but then we're going to perform some additional operations on them. So let's start with just a basic for loop, and then we can think about where to go from there. So for let, in this case, we're just going to use the standard one. Let I equals 1 for starters. And then for I being less than or equal to 10, we're going to increment through each iteration of the loop. Okay, so in this case, 2, 4, 8, 20 if we give 2. Yeah, so yep. You're right. And so what Cranberry Cat said there is that essentially if we put in 2, we should expect to get back 2, 4, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yep. 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Yeah. And so it'll give us back. So essentially that's multiplying 2 by all of the integers between 1 and 10. So now we just want to do some operations on this. And so we started with a for loop, but we also want essentially, we want the user to provide their own input as well. So we're also going to put in a little prompt up here. So we're going to say let number equal prompt for say what times table do you want? And we're going to set the default as 0. But again, we could really put it as anything. And so now, does anybody know, you don't have to say exactly, but does anybody know what we want to do in order to get, let's say number is a number that they put in, what would we do for each loop in order to get each row of the times table? What would we do to our number that our user has put in? Have the input multiply itself until it reaches 10. You're close, yeah. Or multiply I, yes, that's exactly right. Yep, we're gonna each time for each loop, we're gonna want to multiply our user input number times whatever I is at that point. Okay. Yep, multiply I. You're right. Yep, exactly. So we're gonna take essentially whatever that is. So we're gonna say, and we could. Yep, I times number. Yes, you are all very right. Yes, exactly. So we could do this a number of ways. I'm just going to really quickly, I'm just going to declare a new little variable here. We're just going to say times equals essentially number times I. And then we're going to console log that bad boy. Console log. And here I also want to show, like, if I want my times table to look fancy and I want to, instead of just printing out like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 or, whatever, I want to show the equation of how we got there. So if we're trying to be educational here, let's be educational. So we're going to log everything. So we're going to say, we're going to use our ticks and we're going to say, essentially I want to say number, whatever the user put in. So number times I equals the result for each row. So in that case, we're going to go ahead and use our fancy little notation here, and we're going to say number, which is what the user input, times I equals, and then we're going to say, I should have called this something different, but we're going to times. So that's the result. Okay, and now what this is going to show us is for each row, it's going to show us the equation for the times table row of how we got there. And you might think, well, but you're putting in mathematical operators, right? And if it's, we said earlier that if somebody even puts a string, JavaScript is smart enough to know that you're trying to do a mathematical operation on it. And so wouldn't this just, do a mathematical operation? Well, no, not in this case, because our operators here, our times and our equals, are inside of our ticks for the string. So it's going to treat this whole thing as one big old string, and that's what it's going to output. Just whatever we put in, that's what it's going to output. All right, so let's try it. Make sure I commented. Yeah, I knew I missed something. Comment everything out. There we go. I think I got everything else. All right. Let's do that. Get a prompt. Yep, back tick. You're right. Yep. We use the back ticks in this case because we wanted to use this, newer sort of notation here. Is there a forward tick? No, there's just the back tick and then like the standard quote marks. Yeah. All right, so let's do the since Cranberry Cat mentioned it earlier, let's just put in 2 here. Yeah. So now what do we get back, right? We get the whole times table. We get 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 6, 8, 10, all the way up to 20, but it also shows us the equation of how we got there. Okay, so we got a little fancy there with our notation, but yep, Intelligence put all the options in the chat there. We've got the back tick, the single quote, and the double quotes. Oh, good. Thanks, Stunning Chicken. Yeah, I'm glad this is helping. Yeah, we're just thinking through it together logically and, seeing what we get. And you can have a little fun with it too. Like the question didn't ask us for the whole like equation, but we decided to do it anyway, right? And okay, so, yeah, and Rascal's right. Ye old string concatenation would have been exactly, yeah, you would have taken essentially what you would have done is here, let's do it that way too. Let's do it the old way. Because actually in Rascal, like that's how you do it in SQL. And so it took me like some serious mental effort to learn this tick method, which is why I try to use it pretty often because it's, I got to train my brain. And you do the other method in Excel and stuff too. Like a lot of other places use the standard other method. So, all right, so let's do it the old way too. So let's say, you would say essentially number plus, and then you'd have your quote marks because you're starting a string there. So we'd say number plus space multiplication symbol, and then we do another plus because we're concatenating, and then we do our I plus, and oh hey, good to see you, Ryan. Thank you. And then we have our equal sign. Oops, boop. And then we have our result plus result. So you can see, I mean, that takes a little bit more effort to write. And it's also a little harder to read as well. But let's try it and see if I did that right. We'll do a 2 again just because we can compare. Yeah. So we get the same result essentially, but in my opinion, the tick method, it looks better and looks, it just looks better and it's easier to read. So I initially, I had the first time jitters about the tick method, and I was like, oh, I'm going to stick with the plus and quote method forever. But I do like the tick method more now that I'm used to it. But anyway, let's undo this. Go back to the other look. Yeah, there we go. So you can see that looks a lot cleaner. Yep, looks cleaner to me with the tick method. I agree. Yes. Okay, so any more questions on that? Otherwise, we will go on to there's one more part to this question. So let's go ahead and go on to that. So when you are done, improve the program so it only accepts numbers between 2 and 9. Use the previous method as a blueprint. Somebody asked, hi, will you be uploading your code onto CodePen afterwards? Yeah, I think I will. I mean, this homework is several weeks old, so it's not like, anything that is, it's not like we're doing this week's homework or anything like that. Yeah, all the cool languages do this. Well, I will say SQL is not a cool language, so I don't know a lot of the cool language slang. SQL was written in 1970, so it's an oldie language. It's in the old folks' home. All right, so improve the program so it only accepts numbers between 2 and 9. All right, so we did something kind of similar for the previous exercise, right? We said we had something that looked at whether a user guess was greater than 100 or less than 50. And so we can kind of consider this template here and do something similar. So essentially, we only want it to print out a times table for while numbers are between 2 and 9. Otherwise, it should reprompt. Let's see, a while in a for loop or a for in a while. Well, you kind of have the right idea, but I don't know that we need to get that. I don't know that we need to get that crazy. We don't necessarily need to nest our loops with this. Let's just start out by, let's just create a bucket for our number. So we're going to say, I don't know, we'll say, we're just going to let user input equals, we'll set it to 0 first. And I think really here, we don't need to nest if statements inside a for loop. You could do it that way. But I don't even think we need to get that crazy. I don't even think we need to nest anything here. And I'm sorry, my cat is here. You're going to hear him. There's really nothing I can do. If I try to kick him out, he'll just be louder. So we got to live with it for now. Can we see him? Unfortunately, I'm using a different machine tonight. I have a totally different setup, and I know I would love to. I have a totally different setup, and so I don't have a webcam on this laptop. I'll get a webcam at some point, and then you'll be able to see my kitty. I'm actually be able to come up with a picture of him on Google Photos or something. Yeah, Coder Cat, that's right. Yep, it's Bart the cat. He likes to help me. Okay, so let's think about how we can do this. So essentially, first channel point was redemption cat cam. I think we could probably manage that. Absolutely. So essentially, we want to keep prompting the user, right, until they enter a number that is between 2 and 9. So if they don't enter a number that's between 2 and 9, then they should get a reprompt. And then if they enter a number that is between 2 and 9, then we can move on and do something else and perform other operations. So really, we just need a while loop as kind of a gatekeeper. It doesn't need to be a nested while loop necessarily. It just needs to prevent progress. It just needs to keep looping and not let the code continue any farther down the page. So everybody had the right idea, absolutely. So we're going to say while something. We're going to not fill that in just yet. Say while something, then keep prompting. So number equals prompt. I love all the cat emotes. Enter an integer. And we're going to set the default value just to 0. Okay, so what this is going to do, so now we're going to say for our while, what do we want to say if we want to keep prompting the user until they enter a number between 2 and 9? What should we say in our while loop? You don't have to write out all the notation. Just give me a general idea. What should this while loop keep going for? Like, what should cause this while loop to run again? Greater than 2 and less than 9. Well, actually, if it's greater than 2 and less than 9, then we don't want to prompt the user again, because that's an acceptable answer. We want it to prompt the user again if what they have put in is not acceptable, if it's unacceptable. So maybe think about that in a different way. Flip it. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Right? So we want to say, yep, not, yes, not greater than 2, and less than 9. Yeah. I got you, Jess Gaskell. I got you. All right. So we can say that in essentially using similar notation to kind of what we did before. It's going to involve an or. So in this case, we're going to say oh, and sorry, I meant this needs to be user input, not number. I was looking at my notes. All right, well, user input, and then in our while statement, we're going to say user input is less than 2, or user input is going to be greater than 9. And it doesn't say, like in the question, doesn't say if between 2 and 9 is inclusive or not. I'm just assuming it is. You can interpret that differently, but this is how we're doing it. So, so in this case, let's just test this first part. Okay, so what times table and this is not going to give us our times table yet. This is just going to, oh, and sorry, I didn't comment out that thing up top. Hang on. So that's still going to give us a times table. I'm putting something here to make it stop. All right, so let me comment this out. There we go. All right, now let's do that again. Okay, so now if I enter, keep the default, enter 0. Oh, it still put out a time. I didn't reload the page. Jeepers. I'll get it eventually, I promise. Enter a valid integer. Okay. All right. And save. Yep. Thanks. Florence got it. Channel points for Florence. Imaginary channel points for Florence. I don't have any, but if I did, I'd give you some. Okay. Yay. Yeah. Everybody gets imaginary points tonight. Okay. Let's try that again. So I'm going to leave the default. And, oh, it still printed it out. So I must have it. I think I have everything commented out. Interesting. Oh, yeah, except if I press cancel, it becomes endless. Oh, geez. Yeah, you can get yourself stuck like that. It's best not to have any other browser windows open. Okay, so I think I've saved. I'm double checking. I've saved. I've reloaded. I came in late. Did you get this file from Leon or somewhere else? So if you look at the homework from, I believe, February 24th, someone said. Yep, and Vampy Teeth posted it. Thank you, Vampy. Yeah, click on that link that Vampy posted, and that'll take you to essentially the chapter, and then the questions are at the very end of that chapter. Yep. No problem, Ryan. All right, let's try this again. I don't know why it keeps trying to print out a times table, but I swear I have everything else commented out. I just want to test the while loop. All right. All right, so let's try printing, I don't know, 10. Okay, there we go. That's better. All right. And we're going to say 1. Okay. And so we wanted it to keep prompting. Yeah, it isn't working on my end. Oh, okay. Yeah, it keeps loading. Yeah, and like I say, while loops, you can get stuck if you don't have something exactly right on a while loop. If you don't have a good way out of it, you can kind of get stuck. If you can open the console, you might see what it's doing. If it's like printing a bunch of values into the console just endlessly, then you might have to close your browser. Yeah, you'll be stuck for a while. Exactly. You can also kill your browser window with in the task manager if you absolutely need to. It might, after a while your computer might start to kind of rev like a jet engine. But okay, so yeah, our while loop seems to be working properly now. Because it keeps prompting us if we enter a number that's greater than 9 or less than 2. So that's exactly what we wanted, right? We don't want to accept any values that are not between 2 and 9. So now let's grab the second part of this. Let's grab our times table. And so now, if the user does enters a valid value, this while loop will end, right? So it's going to kick us out of the while loop, and then it's just going to proceed right into the for loop. Oh, got another spammer. Oh boy, my second spammer. I feel so loved. Okay, let's save this. And we'll cancel. Oh, I gotta enter valid. I'm gonna enter something valid to get us out of the loop. Okay, I'm gonna reload this. All right, here we go. Now we're gonna enter. Let's enter an invalid integer. That should cause us to reprompt. Good. Awesome. Now let's enter something valid like 5. Oop, reference number is not defined. Oh, my bad. Sorry. I need to fix my variable here because we called it user input this time, not number. And 2, if you guys didn't know, you can click. So when you get an error, you can click on this little hyperlink right here, and it will take you to the exact line in your JavaScript where the problem is. And then it'll usually tell you what the problem is there too if you hover. So if you guys didn't know that, you can, just click on the little hyperlink. It'll take you straight to the problem, and then you can usually fix it pretty easily. Yeah, it is pretty handy. So again, we got there by just in the console, we click the hyperlink, and then it takes you straight to the point in your file that's bad. So that can make your troubleshooting a lot easier. Okay, so I think we're good now because the problem was that I just copied and pasted this without changing my variable name since I called it something different down here. So save that again. Let's reload. Let's try again. Yeah. Okay, so now it worked because it passed our while loop. So it just basically said, nope, there's nothing in here. I don't need to keep going. I only need to prompt once. And then now I can move straight into my for loop and then complete the for loop and print the times table. Does that make sense? Any questions there? Okay. Good deal. Okay, so let's move on to first try. Yeah, there was no errors at all, right? First try, 100%. Why do we have to assign user input a value of 0 at the beginning? Well, essentially, we do want it to prompt for the first time. So, I mean, we could put like another prompt up here and have it prompt once, move on, and then prompt again within our while loop. But we don't have to do that if we give user input a value that will trigger the while loop to run. So let's just try this. I like trying things. So let's just do this. Let's just declare it and not give it a value. Yeah. So watch that. You see what happened there? So when I just declared user input. I didn't give it a value. And when I did that, it skipped the while loop because essentially the user input value was undefined. So it never prompted the user for anything. And then it just tried to go straight into the for loop. Yeah. Yep. So there's no harm in trying this kind of stuff, right? Because then it'll show you what'll happen and it'll tell you what you need to do. So that's why we set it to 0. So it would trigger the while loop, prompt the user, give us a value that we actually want, and then run the for loop. Yep. But yeah, and again, we could have prompted the user first thing, just had an extra prompt, user input equals prompt, whatever, like up here. But I mean, why do it twice when you could just do it once? So, all right. Good. I'm glad it makes sense. Cool. So next question is, I'm going to just go ahead and reload this. I didn't comment it out first. Cripes on a cracker. All right. Oops. Boop. All right. There we go. I'm going to enter something to clear this. Boop, boop, boop. Get our times tables. Reload. I didn't save it. I'll get the sequence right eventually. This is why I'm working in the console and in VS Code, just because I need to get better about, this sequence, just muscle memory. That doesn't make sense. I used to have a prompt at the beginning. Yes, you can absolutely. There's no harm in having the prompt at the beginning and then, and then prompting them again in the while loop. And, if you're struggling with the logic of, if you want, the logic to be just really spelled out and very clear, then you can absolutely do that. There's no harm in it. Okay, so next question, neither yes nor no. Write a program that plays neither yes nor no with the user. Specifically, the program asks the user to enter the text until either yes or no is typed, which ends the game. Okay, so this is kind of similar to kind of the stuff we've done before with like numbers. except this time we're doing strings. So strings, basically whenever we prompt the user for something, whatever the user inputs is going to be treated as a string anyway. So this is going to be fairly short and sweet. Yes, the less than greater than converts undefined to not a number. Yep, which when compared with the same operator always returns false. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so essentially what we're doing is we want the user to keep being prompted until they enter the word yes for yes or no for no, which then ends the game. So essentially then ends the loop. So again, we're going to have another while loop here. So we can perform basically the same trick that we just talked about. So we can say, we're just going to say let user word, we're going to set it to an empty string. So that way, whatever conditions we give the while loop will run and prompt the user. So we're going to say while, and then we're going to say something, whatever we want that while loop to do. Then we want a prompt to come up. Word, let's see, user word equals prompt. And then we want to just say enter a word. And this time we're not going to put any default value. A word. We're going to make it really hard on the user. We're not going to give them any clues about what we want them to put in. I wonder how long it would take them to guess it. Okay, so, but we want them to we want the while loop to keep running until exactly yes or no is entered. And so while the user word is not yes, or the user word is not no. Okay, so essentially what we're going to say here is user word, and when we say something is not, how would we say is not? When we're comparing something, when we're doing a comparison, how would we say is not? Yep. We're gonna make use of the exclamation point. Yep. Yes. And the folks the Florence and Rascal, yeah. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna say we're gonna use bang equal in order to do that comparison. It's gonna be a nice strict comparison for us. So we're gonna say while user word bang equal while it's not yes, and somebody had the exact sequence there earlier. Yep. And we're gonna use the double ampersand here. We're gonna use and here. So we're gonna try it both ways, but we're gonna say while it's not yes and it's not no. And you might say, well, why don't we use or here? Well, we'll see that, and we'll see in a minute. But it says either. Yep. I see where you're coming from. But so yes and no. Yes, but you see and. Yes, that's right. We'll think through this in just a minute, but first let's test it, okay? Okay, so now we should get a prompt here. So we're going to enter a word. We're just going to say yeah, so I say chat, and then it keeps prompting me again, so that's what we want. We'll say that, and we'll say okay, and we'll say okay. So it's clearly it keeps prompting us, so our while loop is working. But now let's enter one of the magic words. Okay, so we'll enter yes. Now this should kick us out of the loop. Yeah, okay, good. It kicked us out of the loop. All right, now let's enter no. And it also kicked us out of the loop. Okay, but why does that work, right? So now let's try it the other way, okay? First try, yep. Woo, we escaped the loop, hooray, yeah. Okay, so now we replace that with the or operator. So now let's try a few words. Try chat. Yeah, nope. And we will try cat. And now let's try the word yes, which should help us exit the loop. Uh-oh. Let's try no. Uh-oh. 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 We're stuck. Now, why are we stuck? Why is that happening? Confusion. Yeah. When we used ampersand, ampersand, it worked. But then when we use pipe, pipe, it doesn't work. So let's walk through this and let's think about why that is. Yes, and Ryan's got it. Ryan has the general gist. Yes. Okay, so let's just walk through. So let's walk through this statement line by line and see exactly what it's doing. Okay, so a user enters a word. Let's say, well, let's not say it's anything just yet, but let's just walk through it. Yeah, and this is Ryan, you're exactly right. This is why we play. This is why you take something and you tweak something and then you see what happens and you try it again. So while user word is not yes. Okay, so it can be essentially any other word in the world except for yes. Okay, and then we put the or operator in here. Or user word could be any other word in the world aside from no. So now, essentially what this statement is saying is that for every single word in the world, keep prompting. It's never going to accept a word. It's never going to accept a word that works. Because we have this or statement in here essentially saying, hey, any other word beside yes, or any other words beside no, including yes, then keep prompting. So essentially we've created two statements which encompass all of the words possible in the world. But let's change this back to an ampersand operator and then we'll walk through it again. Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to think about. You have to, yeah, they cancel each other. Exactly, yes. These two cancel each other out if we have the pipe operator in here. It's like two circles that just then end up completely overlapping. It's a Venn diagram with two overlapping circles, kind of. So let's put the ampersands back in here and let's see what happens. So while user word is not yes, okay, so every other word in the world aside from yes, and user word is not no. So if the user word is yes or the user word is no, or sorry, if the user word is not yes or the user word is not no, then keep prompting. So essentially now when we put the ampersands in there, it's going to now accept the word yes or accept the word no to end the loop. It's really hard. It's even hard to talk about, but it's like check this and check this. Yeah, essentially, yes. That's what it's saying. It's check the first one. Is it not yes? And then check the second one. Is it not no? Okay. If it meets those criteria, then keep prompting. But then does it have to happen in sequence? I'm not quite sure what that question is asking. Maybe you can ask it another way. But yeah, so essentially the way we ran this originally, we are going to be stuck in there forever. So I'm going to see if I can like type yes first, then type no. It'll work the other way around too. We'll try that in a second. Let me see if I can close this. Okay, there we go. Oh, and bonus points if you know what show my desktop is from. Imaginary channel points. Hey. Yeah, Rascal's got it. Yeah, all right. Lots of folks got it. Everybody gets channel points. Good job. All right. Gonna move this over here now. fix my window size again. Okay, so now we should be back to, oh, and I didn't save it. I just messed myself up again. All right, hang on. Glad there's some other fans in here. All right. So somebody said, well, what if we try it in the other order? What if we do no and then yes? Okay, let's do that. All right, I'm going to reopen my thing here. Uno más tiempo. Okay. Okay, let's try that again. All right, so now let's enter the word yes, because that's the second one in the sequence. So will it still work if we do it in the reverse order? Say yes. Hey, it got us out of the loop. Awesome. So it works in either way. You don't have to enter them in a certain order. Yeah, it's still going to work either way. Somebody asked a question. Is it worth it to spend time learning how to do this and get software dev job? That's up to you. If you feel like this is worthwhile, if it's something you want to pursue, then go ahead and pursue it. Redeems hydrate. Thank you. I'm gonna get a drink. Yeah, actually, I have some tea here. Yeah, if that's what you want to do, go for it. Well, how would we use pipe, or how would we use that correctly? Well, in this case, you wouldn't necessarily, you wouldn't want to say something like, take the not operator off of here. If we did that, and we said, or user word equals yes, that's going to actually do the opposite of what we want, right? It's going to say if the user enters no, or if the user enters yes, then prompt them again. And that's not what we want. That's the opposite of what we want. So in this case, I really wouldn't use or, just because it's not really going to give us, we want something that takes into account both of these possibilities for them being entered. If you were using or, you would want to be maybe something where you were not trying to be restrictive. You could say, we used or up here, right, in our previous exercise, because we wanted to essentially say while user input was less than 2 or user input was greater than 9. We had two sort of mutually exclusive possibilities, but we wanted both of those possibilities to be considered. So here we were able to use or successfully. But in this case, I think really using the not operator and then our double ampersands is the best choice. Oh, hi, Hippie Sue. Oh, great. Oh, I'm glad this was, yeah, I'm glad you had really good timing. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Does user word equals, yes. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So we can use the not operator in a slightly more creative way. Yes, that's a good possible solution with the bang in front. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, and so essentially what Rascal suggested, and yeah, that you can use the not operator, and when I say not operator, I'm talking about the exclamation point or the bang. So we could say, let's just see, or yeah. So essentially, what they're doing is they're saying this, which we just kind of typed out, but we're putting the bang operator in front of it, which basically creates the negative. So if we do this, so what is this doing? So it's saying user word is equal to no, or user word is equal to yes, but the opposite of that. So while the user word is not no, or the user word is not yes, then do the prompt. So let's try that. Okay, let's say chat, cat, that, hat. Cool. Okay, so let's say yes. Hey, we end the loop. Awesome. And yeah, this can be kind of a brain trip to think about, like, what the, what does not do? Where do I put my not operator? I mean, wherever you put it is, kind of up to you. But it needs to be a place that makes sense to you. So for example, like if you need to think about it in terms of like user word not equal no and user word not equal yes, if that makes more sense to you, or if you want to put it user word equals no or user word equals yes, the opposite of that, then you can put it there. It's just, you put it wherever it makes most sense to you. And obviously where it works too. But yeah, that was a good solution, Rascal, as well. At the cost of additional symbols, I feel it makes it easier to be humanly read. Yeah, you could definitely say that. Just remembering, remembering to put that not operator in there to make sure it works. And then, yeah, that definitely does work. Yep. Yeah, nice to see different ways. Absolutely. And that's why I really like doing these streams, right? Because you can, people suggest different ways. We try them out. We all get to see them. We see what works, what doesn't work. We see, what are the easy mistakes to make. And we all get to see it and work on it together. So that's where I really dig these streams. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rascal. And two, like the bang operator, that not operator. Yeah, you can use that. You can use it on individual variables. You can use it on full statements like we did here. It's pretty versatile actually in the ways that you can use it. You can use it directly on the comparison like we did there. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm glad your brain isn't melting quite as much. That's good. Okay, so last up in the standard questions, before we move into some of the extra stuff that I had planned, the last of the questions is kind of a famous one. And you might encounter this when you are actually maybe doing a job interview. It depends. It's kind of a classic, so I don't know if it's being asked very much anymore, but you could encounter it. And so it's good to know, or at least have a solution for it. Oh, and Rascal says, another way, at the cost of 2 more lines, would be saying while true, yeah. Then afterward is reassign, using user word as break, yes, break, for both yes and no. Okay, yeah, so yeah, you could do a while statement while user word is true, and then reassign it if user word is yes, break. So like doing like a statement there and then breaks out if it hits yes. Yeah, you could do that too. Yep. So yeah, tons of different ways. Okay, so Fizzbuzz. So write a program that shows all the numbers between 1 and 100 with the following exceptions. Okay, it shows fizz if the number is divisible by 3. Okay, and it shows buzz if the number is divisible by 5 and not by 3. Okay, so does anybody know, what is a good way, a good quick shorthand for determining if a number is divisible by another number? What can we use really quickly to say like, yep, this is divisible, X is divisible by Y or whatever? Does anybody know? Yeah, good job. All right, oop, my battery's running low. Hang on, I gotta plug in. 1 second. Gonna mute for just a hot second. Yeah. Okay, and of course now that I plug in, my laptop starts revving like a jet engine because, streaming and all. So sorry if the background noise is a little loud, I apologize. It's just my laptop trying to catch up. Yeah, I got impromptu break because we haven't had any channel points to redeem. Got to rely on battery time. Yeah, man, I ain't taking breaks. We don't need no breaks. No, we actually should. I should put in breaks to this, but I just get going, right? I'm on a roll. Okay, so I'm plugged in now. We're all good. And okay, so let's do Fizzbuzz. All right, so folks were giving me the right answer right before my battery went kablooey. Fizzbuzz. Yeah. So yes, we need to use the modulo operator. We need to use the modulo operator, which is essentially just the for those of you who don't want to be fancy, it is just the percentage sign, right? So that is essentially tells us if you divide one number by another, what it returns is the remainder. So in that case, if a number is, let's say if we want to know if a number is divisible by another number, what should the modulo return if a number is divisible by another number? Yeah. All right, so if a number is divisible by another number, that modulo is going to return 0. Exactly right. Yes. So let's think about then, essentially, and also too, so now it says write a program that shows all numbers between 1 and 100. Okay, so just from that very first line, we know that the first thing we should do is if we want to display all the numbers between 1 and 100, what are we going to need to essentially get that going? How are we going to print all the numbers between 1 and 100? What can we use to print all the numbers between 1 and 100? Yep, 4. Yep, for loop. Yes. Yep. Yes, exactly right. Okay, so for let I, we're going to start at 1 because it says start all the numbers between 1 and 100. So if we start I equals 1, and we're going to say for I less than or equal to 100, and then we're going to increment I plus plus, and all right. So now if we did nothing else, we just said console log I, that would print all the numbers between 1 and 100. But essentially we need a little bit more than that. So what is the first thing? It says it shows fizz if the number is divisible by 3. Okay, and we already said that we know how to do that. We can use the modulo. And if a number is divisible by another number, the result of that modulo is going to be 3. Okay, so we're going to say if, and then what are we going to put in here to say we want to see if a number, if our I, essentially if our current number, if our I is divisible by 3, what are we going to say? We know it's going to involve a modulo. Does anybody know? Yes. Yep, you got it, Vampy. Yep. We're going to say I. Yep. In this case, we're not going to use, Hippie, we're not going to use the divisor symbol. We're going to use the modulo symbol, which is the percentage, because we want the remainder. So if the remainder of that division operation is, yep, yeah, you guys got it. Now we're not, we can actually, so J7 Ed, we actually don't even need that divisor operator. We're going to say just I modulo 3, and all that's going to return is our remainder, right? So if the remainder is equal to 0, then we're going to console log what it wants us to console log. And I'm going to add to this a little bit. I want to show both the number and the word that we want to say. So I'm going to say, we're going to say, just to be more clear, oops, I'm going to say hello. Somebody just spoke up in the voice chat. Not sure if they're watching my Twitch or not. All right, so we're just going to say that. So just to be very clear, we're going to say I is Fizz. Okay. So let's just stop here for just a second and we'll see if this works. Okay. Oh, comment this out. Okay. And then we're going to see if this works. Oh, hang on. Sorry. Okay, so what happened here? Let's see. Yeah, okay, so it's working. Yep, this is working. Oh, comment the top out. Did I miss a comment somewhere? I don't think I did. There. Okay, yeah, that worked. That worked that time. Cool. Okay. Yeah, so we can look. So now let's look at what happened. So it printed out for each multiple of 3, which is what we wanted. It printed out the number and then Fizz. So actually, and I want to add just real quick. I want to add an else statement on here. I'm going to say else. We're just going to console log I. So just console log, just to be more clear as to what's happening here. Console log I, save. No. Oh, did I miss I think I've got an extra bracket there. My bad. Console log I, and then, yeah. That should be better. Yeah, okay, so now it's printing out all the numbers, which is what we wanted to see. Will this stream be saved? Yes. So this will be available on my Twitch channel as a VOD. So kind of like how Leon streams on his Twitch channel. Yep, the VOD is already generated. Yes. So it'll be on my channel, and so you can view it there, just like you can with Leon's streams. Okay, so now we can see it's doing exactly what we wanted, right? For each number that's divisible by 3, it is printing Fizz. So that's the first part. Thanks, Hippie. Yeah, we're going along pretty well so far. There's some things I'm going to update, but it's going on. We're going along pretty well. Yeah, Rascal just posted the VOD actually. And that should be, once I end the stream, it'll obviously be complete. So yeah, you can come back and watch it later if you want to. All right, so let's keep going through the question. So we've got the first part working. It shows Fizz if the number is divisible by 3. And now for numbers that are divisible by 5, we want it to show Buzz. So you might think, well, what if I just put in my else statement, I just put I is Buzz. Would that work? Would that work if I just put I is Buzz in my else statement? Yeah, so Vampy's suggesting if else. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it would not work. You're right. Yes. It would not work. And so, but let's do it anyway, just because we can. Let's see why that won't work. We're going to do it because we can. All right. Yeah. All right, so let's look. Uh-oh. Hey, 1's not divisible by 5. That's not going to work. Nope. That's right. 5 is right, but everything else is wrong. Yeah. And so Vampy was right. We need an else if here. And we need some more conditions. So what are we going to have in our else if right here? Can somebody write it out? Should look similar to what we did before. Oh, yeah, chat's a little slow. Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm dropping hella frames over here. I got some slow frames. So, and I think, yeah, my chat's lagging. So next time I do this, I'm going to close some more browser windows and stuff like that and try to help my laptop out a little bit. Yeah, you got it, Fights. Yep. Y'all, yep. And Hippie's got it as well. Nice. Good job. Yep. So it's essentially the same statement as before. If the number is divisible by 5, so the module will be 0. That's all we need to do. Okay, let's try it again. Oh, and I think I didn't properly reload. Yeah, all right. Oh, I need to add one more else. Sorry. Else, we're going to console log the rest. Console log I. Okay, straight up. Yeah, because it was skipping all the numbers in between. So I wanted to show all the numbers. Yeah, there we go. That looks better. All right, it's a lot easier to see if you're just printing all the numbers. And I think that's what the question's asking for anyway. So now we can see that 3 is fizz, 5 is buzz. These other numbers are blank, and that's essentially what we want. Now, what happens if we get a number that's divisible by both 3 and 5? Okay, like 15. 15 is divisible by both 3 and 5. So 15 is printing out as fizz. Now, why is that? That's because once it enters our if statement, so the 5 comes in, or if the 15 enters our if statement, and it says if it's divisible by 3, then log as fizz, and then it essentially the statement is done. It's found a true condition, so it exits. It doesn't then try to reassign it to buzz. So that's how if statements work. Is if it hit a condition that's valid, and so it does it, and then it exits. So that's why it assigns 15 to fizz. So that takes care of the first part, and there's a second part of this as well. But I'm going to stop here for a second and see if anybody else has any questions on just the basic construction of Fizzbuzz, and then we're going to add one more component to it. Oh, thanks, Harmon. Yeah, I hope it goes okay. Going pretty well so far. Got some things I'm going to update, but it'll get better as we go. Does anybody have any questions on this basic Fizzbuzz? And then we'll make it a little bit more complex, but not too bad. Maybe a good time for hydrate? Yeah, I got one more drink of tea here. Okay. The order of if, then else, then else. Yes. So Vampy asked, the order of if, then else if needs to be correct, right? Yeah. So you need to have, when you're constructing an if statement with multiple conditions, you need to have if first, obviously, followed by an else if, and then an else. If you try to put your else before your else if, it's going to error. And I think maybe if you were asking about the specific nature of this question, yeah, I mean, it depends on what the question is asking, right? Because as soon as an if statement hits a true condition, it will exit that if statement. So whatever the true condition should be, you need to think about the order in which you're putting your conditions into the statement. So it just depends on the question, right? So if they wanted it to say, if it depends on what they wanted it to say, in what order, really. You can't do if else. Oh, so you're saying like if we were writing it like this, if else. Yeah, that's not going to work because it's going to try to treat that as a new if statement. So it needs to be else if. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Good question. So let's move on to the second part of this. So you're welcome. When it's done, improve the statement so that the program shows, no, that's totally fine, Vampy, no worries. When it's done, improve it so the program shows Fizzbuzz instead for numbers divisible by both 3 and 5. Okay, so this is a really interesting addition because it says we want for in any case when a number is divisible by both 3 and 5, it should show Fizzbuzz, not fizz, not buzz, but Fizzbuzz. And so what did we just say about if statements, right? As soon as an if statement hits a condition that's true, it will stop and it won't evaluate any more cases. So the numbers that are going to show Fizzbuzz need to come first within our if statement because those are going to evaluate as true and then the statement's going to stop. So we need to think about, the order in which we're assigning things when we're creating these statements. So let's just pull up our whole thing. We're going to copy it down here. Okay. And just gonna save, reload, just get this all, yeah, okay, cool. All right, so that's still working good. Okay, so in our if statement, we now want to modify this so that any number that's assigned Fizzbuzz is immediately evaluated, and then it should go on to the next number. So we're gonna change this one into an else if, and then we're going to put another if statement here at the beginning. Whoops, come on. If, okay, so let's think about what we want to say here. So we want to say if a number is divisible by both 3 and 5. So essentially we're going to combine our two previous statements into one statement up here. So what operator are we going to use to combine our two modulo statements here? Which conditional operator are we going to use? Yeah, y'all got it. You all got it. You're quick on the game. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So, and we got our ampersands. Drop those bad boys in there, copy and paste. Yeah. Clean up my spaces a little bit. Okay, so if it's divisible by 3 and divisible by 5, then essentially we just want to log console log Fizzbuzz. Yeah. Okay. So let's run this again, and we'll look at a number like 15 that we know is, yeah, that's awesome, hippie. Yep, it is very sweet. And we will console log, essentially, we'll look at a number that like we know is visible by 3 and 5, like 15. So we'll just look at that. All right. Yeah. So I see a few in there already. Yep, we see 15. We should see like 30. Yep. See 45. Yeah, so essentially we'll see multiples of 15 that are printing out with Fizzbuzz. Yep. So it's working exactly as intended here. Yeah. So now, if you get asked this question in an interview, now you know how to answer it. You just whip out those modulos and knock them dead. Yep. Oh, thanks, Bracco. Yeah. No, I love doing this stuff. It's fun. So why doesn't it overwrite the 15? Yeah. Okay, so if statements, when they evaluate, so when an if statement is evaluating, it's checking each case, right? So it's checking the first if, it's checking the else, it's checking the next else, and then if nothing else works, it's going to the final one. But if it hits a case where something is true, so let's say, if it's going through the first one, that's not true. When it hits a case that's true, after it finishes evaluating that case and doing whatever the case requires, then it quits, it breaks, and it stops evaluating anymore. So that's why we put our Fizzbuzz first, right? Because let's say if I pass in 15, it's going to take in that 15, it's going to say, yep, it's divisible by 3 and divisible by 5, so I'm going to go ahead and do what this tells me to do, and then it's going to break, it's going to exit, and it's going to go to the next number. So it's going to go on to 16. And so that's why we have to be considerate of what order we put things in. Now, if you were using like a switch statement or, like a case statement in that way, you have to manually put breaks after each case. But an if statement has the breaks implicit. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad that makes sense. Yeah. All right. So, yep, they're all exclusive. Once you hit the rest of them, they are all skipped over. Exactly. Yes. Whereas if you're using like a switch statement, then you have to put in the breaks yourself. Otherwise, it'll just keep evaluating. Good. Okay. So that's essentially the end of the homework that was from February 24th. So my catch-up crew folks, hopefully that helps you catch up, or folks that needed some more review, or maybe didn't get to the homework in the first place because it was pretty long. Hopefully that helps you guys. I've got some extra stuff which I just want to talk about. It's newer stuff, so if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're not feeling comfortable, you can always leave it there and come back and look at the VOD later. But yeah, we're going to talk about a couple more things, and just some stuff that's new, but I think it's applicable, or has relevance to some of these exercises here, that we can kind of go back and revisit and think about these exercises in a different way. But first, I am going to take a quick break because it's been about 2 hours, and I feel like everybody should get the chance to have a break. So I'm going to put my be right back timer on. I'm going to practice with that a little bit, and we're going to put a timer on for 5 minutes, and then I will come back. Okay? I'm going to use the bathroom, get another cup of tea. And then we'll go on for, the other stuff I want to cover. It shouldn't take very long. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But, maybe another half an hour or so. So it's up to you whether you want to stick around. But it was, if you don't decide to stick around, it was great having you here tonight. And I hope you got something good out of it. And, you can always come back and watch the VOD later. So be back in 5. Well, I guess it's not a timer, but you can set your own timer. I will see you back here at 9:58. Okay, and we are back. All right, I'm going to get back to my presentation screen here. I drank a big glass of water, had a stretch. Hope you did too. Okay. All right, I see a good deal you stuck around. That's awesome. But hey, there's no, no hard feelings. If you have to peace out, I know it's pretty late, and I don't want anybody, feeling like they're overstretching themselves. Again, this will be a VOD. You can always come back to it later if you want. I don't think we're going to spend a whole bunch of time on this. On the rest of these concepts, it's just kind of stuff I want to bring up and think about how, like, you can always go back and the new concepts that we're learning, you can always go back and reapply those concepts to old stuff and see if you can make it better, right? Like Leon was saying, like, you might want to go back to your layouts and redo them, but I'm, in simpler terms, we can just go back to our old JavaScript statements and see if we can apply new concepts to them. Okay, so let's look at the bottom of my little script here. I just have something called extra stuff, and all this is just some stuff that is in the Code Academy lessons that we're supposed to be doing for whenever they're due, like next Thursday or whenever they're due, or next Tuesday, I forget. But I've been actually really enjoying those Code Academy lessons because, yeah, it goes over a lot of the stuff that we've already done, but it also talks about some stuff that we maybe didn't spend all that much time on. Yes, Ryan. Ryan's a little ahead of me. Yeah. So yeah, Ryan is touching on that, and so the first thing that we're going to just take a quick look at is basically being able to shorten conditional statements. And so what that means is there's a really clever, yeah, you can hear my cat. Yep. He's back. He took a break too, and now he's invigorated and ready to bug me some more. So shortening conditional statements. So our standard if-else statement, yeah, it's a feature. Yep. We can shorten that statement and make it a little bit less cumbersome. Essentially, we can condense, our standard if-else statement. We can condense that essentially down to just one line using just some clever little shorthand. And to me, the shorthand actually is pretty readable too. So let's just see what that is. So we're going to just write, before we revisit any of the old stuff, we're just going to write something super simple. We're going to say, let's see, let word equal, we'll just set to word equal to empty string for now. We'll say if word equals hello, then if word equals hello, oops, gotta do my formatting correctly. Said hello. Then console log hello to you too. And then we'll say else. What are we going to say? Console log. I don't know what to say. Or we'll just say, I don't know. Okay. So we'll save that, comment out the previous stuff. Save and load. Yeah. Okay. So as expected, our console log returned, I don't know. Yeah. So I am building an AI. Yeah. A very simple one that doesn't know very much. Machine learning, right? You got to start somewhere. So because our word is empty string, it's essentially just went straight to the else statement and printed out, I don't know. Now, if we say hello, right, it's going to print, it should print hello to you too. Okay, so very straightforward, right? It worked exactly the way we thought. But this statement is very simple, but it's kind of long. And there's actually a really clever little shorthand we can use to make this statement a lot shorter. Essentially, we can say, Hey, hello. Hi, Turkish. Yeah, so we just finished going over some of the old homework. It was some homework that was assigned back in February, but it's always good to go back and review these concepts occasionally. So we've been doing a lot of for loops. We've been doing a lot of if else. A lot of conditionals. We've been doing a variety of things, and so I'd say we're getting close to wrapping up here, but you can always catch the VOD on my channel. There'll be the whole VOD of the whole stream that should be available for the next couple of weeks. So feel free to catch that, and you can stick around for the end here too. We're talking about some cool stuff. So right now we're talking about how we can shorten our if else statements to be a little bit more compact than the standard notation. Yeah. So we can essentially just say, I lost my chat window here. Oh, good question. Yeah. So Vampy said, how come you don't need the escape clause in your don't? I had to put one. Well, look here. So if you use the other kind of quote marks around your statement, then you don't need to put an escape clause because it understands where the string starts and ends. Yeah, because we're not mixing quotation types. That's exactly right, Ms. Mar. Yes, exactly. So if I use single quotes here, then it wouldn't like it, and I would have to put the escape. Yep. But if you can mix your quote types and get around that. Yeah. Okay, so now I'll probably mess this up the first time, but give me some grace here. So we're going to shorten this if statement essentially into one line. And so we're going to say word equivalent to hello. And here I'm using single quotes, so I'm all over the place. But now essentially what we're saying here is we're saying word hello and then question mark. And so now it's saying, okay, we're going to evaluate this statement. Is it true or false? And then if it is true, we're going to say our true result. Else, we put a colon, and we can say our false result. Okay, so let's comment out the first one, and we'll see if this still works. And actually, I'm going to make this window a little bigger here. Yeah, let's clearly see how that works. Okay. Whoop, uncaught. Okay, what mistake did I make? Let's see. Cannot access Word before initialization. I've gotten this a few times, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. Let's see. Well, I'm trying to show you something cool, but it doesn't seem to be working. That's okay. Anybody know why this might not be working properly? So it's trying to call the string hello with the parentheses in the next line as if it were a function. Oh, so I didn't take the parentheses off. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that was simple. Okay. Yeah, so now it works. Yeah, my bad. I put parentheses around it. That's, of course, why it didn't work. Yeah. Okay. So essentially what this has done is it's essentially taken our if statement and turned it into a single line statement. So it's just a quicker way of writing it. So word equals hello. And so let's walk through this and we'll see what it's doing. So we set our variable and we said if word is hello, then do something, then evaluate the truthfulness of that statement. If it's true, then console log our true result, and else with a colon, console log I don't know. Yes, that's true. That's true, Turkish. Yeah, you can use word is hello and do something. Yeah. Yes, we can. Here I'm just really trying to illustrate this specific syntax here because it's something that we're picking up in our Code Academy lesson for this week. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways to evaluate this statement. Absolutely. In this case, I'm just showing you guys there's an alternate way to write an if statement that uses this question mark and colon notation. And so if you have a simple if, you can easily turn it into a one-line statement with just this notation here. I think this is called ternary operator. Yes. Yeah, and I didn't even say what it was called yet. Yep. So it's called a ternary operator. Yep. And essentially just the format is statement, question mark, true result, colon, else result. Yep. Yeah, you got it, Florence. Yep. Ternary expression, ternary operator. Yep. Yeah, you got it. So with that in mind, let's go back to some of the earlier stuff we did. Okay, so let's just find a nice easy one. So, let's see. Yeah, let's do this one here. Because it's got an if and else. Oh, yeah, something to keep in mind if you're showing text to a user, double check your spellings because code editors will not check your spelling for you. Yeah. Gotta be up on the spellings. Or if you're Leon, just spell everything wrong and don't care at all. So one of two ways. Hey, no shade on Leon. He, like he says, he spells things wrong to keep people engaged. Yep. He spells things wrong on purpose because it keeps you alert. All right, so let's see if we can rewrite this one to use that ternary operator notation. So there is an extension for that. I'm sure there is. It seems like there's an extension for everything, Rascal. Yeah. All right, so let's do this into one line. So I modulo divided by 2. We'll say question mark, and then we'll say our true statement, console log, and then colon, our else statement. So we're turning all that into just one colon. And I'm going to get my semicolon up here on the right line too. And I'm missing a parenthesis. Yep, there we go. Okay, I guess that's just word wrapping. Okay, that's fine. All right, let's try that. See if it'll work. Also going to see if I commented out everything else. Okay. Let's see if I got it right. And what are we even doing here? Oh, we're printing out even and odd. Okay. Yeah. Boop. Okay, so we essentially condensed down that if statement that was like 4 or 5 lines into one line. So if you have a lot of those types of statements, it can just be a nice tight way to keep things a little bit more compact if you've got a really long function. You can make it a little bit more compact by just, first try, yeah. By just condensing it down a little bit more. And you don't have to do this. You can use traditional if-else. I mean, you see, if-else statements written out everywhere, right? So it's up to you. It's nice to rewatch good old days. Yeah. Well, hey, Turkish, review is actually one of the best ways to learn. Just keep repeating, keep reviewing, even if you've been a developer for years, keep reviewing the old stuff. And so that way, it's in your brain. You can access it. You got that muscle memory. You don't want to let that stuff slip out of your brain, right? Yeah. So good. I'm glad it's helping you, Turkish. Okay, so yeah, we've essentially just condensed this down to a single line. And so if you've got a lot of if statements, this can be a good way to, make things a little cleaner. And so yeah, we can do this absolutely for most of the if statements in here. So yeah, that was just a cool little thing that, I just learned it today in the Code Academy work. So yeah, definitely do the Code Academy course if you haven't started it yet. I think it's really worthwhile. And I mean, it is part of our homework, so you got to do it anyway. But yeah, I think it's been really useful. So that's the ternary operator. Next thing I just wanted to touch on was, excuse me, Truthy and Falsey values. So yeah, no problem. Oh yeah, good. Go ahead and get started on it, Hippie Sue. Yep. Because yeah, it does take a little while. So don't leave it till the last minute, because I mean there's kind of a lot there. So I don't think you're gonna be able to cram it in like a Monday evening or whatever. All right, so truthy and falsey values. So we know like true and false, right? We know that like if I say, if I do a direct comparison, word is hello, then that's like, we're evaluating a true or false statement there. But there's something else called truthy and falsey. And that's kind of like implied truthfulness, or implied is something being implied to be true or implied to be false without doing an actual comparison. And in this case, when we say something is truthy, essentially it's an implied evaluation. So truthiness essentially only checks to see if a variable has a value. It doesn't really care what that value is. So it's essentially just saying, is there something in there that we could potentially use for future operations? And so let's see, we can say let word, we'll do another declaration here. Let word equals, we're going to put it as an empty string for now. And then we're just going to do a simple evaluation on it. And we're going to say, if word, and I'm going to use standard notation here just because that's what everybody's familiar with, but and I'm not going to do any comparison. I'm just going to say if word. It's like an existential question. If word, and then we're just going to console log, hey, there's something there. And then else we'll say, I got nothing. And again, I can use that single quote there because I use double quotes around my string. All right. So let's see how this evaluates. Yeah, I got nothing. All right, and it kept my it kept my previous statement there too. I did save. It keeps doing that. All right. Well, you get the idea. You can see down here it printed, I got nothing. And so why did it do that? Well, because it evaluated this and it hit the else statement, right? Well, let's put a word in there now. Just anything, doesn't matter what it is. Hey, now it evaluated differently. It said, hey, there's something there. And so what is it doing here, right? We didn't have any sort of operation in our if statement. We didn't say like if word equals hello, then console log, hey, there's something there. We just said if word. And so that's just evaluating truthiness. It's saying, hey, if word has something, anything assigned to that variable, then evaluate as true. If it doesn't, then evaluate as false. And so truthiness and falsiness can apply to a number of different like states. So here, let's say if let word, and we're gonna set it to 0. Let word equals 0. Now we're back to I got nothing. But 0 is a number. However, when I run it through this if statement, it evaluates as falsy because essentially there's no numerical value there. Yeah, and so Turkish, yeah, you're right. This is just for string. For numbers, yep, 0 equals to false, and any other number is true. Exactly. Yeah, so there's a certain set of numbers and non-existent values, such as null. And so we did null, we can do empty string, we can do 0. Essentially, any variable that it doesn't contain something will evaluate as falsy inherently. Now, why is Yeah, let's try -0. Yep, let's do it. -0. Save that. Yeah, so still evaluates to nothing because it still evaluates to 0. Oh, you said console. Oh, I'm sorry. Console is, the chat box is blocking the console. My bad. Let me fix that for you. I apologize. I'm still working on configuring my Twitch window. I think if I adjust my, get my mouse out of here. All right, there we go. I can just edit this real quick, and I'm just going to get the chat box all the way out of the way. We're going to put it like all the way down here in the corner. And that should fix it. Better? Okay, good. Yeah, so now you should be able to see that. All right, so it evaluates I got nothing. And so, yeah, there's a certain set of values that will always evaluate to falsy. And if I found a list here on the MDN, and we'll just look at this together real quick. I can zoom in here to make it bigger. All right, so the list of JavaScript falsy values, if we look at them together, you can kind of see that there's a little bit of a trend. You don't really have to care, like, you don't really have to like know exactly why, but you kind of get the trend. You kind of get a feel for what type of values are going to return false or falsy if you evaluate them in a statement. So false will return falsy because, I mean, it makes sense. 0, -0, 0n, which is a big int, empty strings, null, undefined, or not a number. Now, why do we even care? Like, why am I even talking about this? This is super confusing. Why am I even talking about this? Well, can you think of a time when you might want to check whether a variable has a valid usable value in it? There's times when we really care whether or not a variable is, say, an empty string or 0, right? Because if we're taking in user input, we don't want any of these things. If a user is going to, if we want a user to put in like a string or a number, yeah, not a number would be useful for data validation. Exactly. Yeah. False positive direct things. Yes. So if we can basically eliminate these types of values, or create statements that the very first thing they do is they check to see whether there's a valid value sitting in that variable, then we can, basically eliminate those right out the gate without having to write individual statements that say, well, if our number is not 0 and if our string is not empty and if it is not null, then, then do everything else. Well, this, doing just a basic comparison for truthiness or falsiness can help us just get rid of all these bad values in one fell swoop. So I'm not saying that you have to know how to use this right away, but I just think it's really useful to consider the possible implications of being able to put this into your projects. So especially because, users, right? Users are going to just, garbage in, garbage out. If you turn, a few thousand users loose on a website and give them free user input, they're going to put in all sorts of things. And so the more you can sanitize those inputs before they actually make it to your functions, the better off you'll be. Users, the absolute worst. Yeah, exactly. They are. Well, they're chaos. They're uncontrolled. And so the more you can sanitize the inputs that they provide, the better off you'll be. So, if you can do these types of comparisons, just basic comparisons for truthiness or falsiness, first thing when you pull in an input, then, you can have better data to go into your functions. Yeah, people are going to learn when they start programming by practice. Exactly. And W3 Schools says that any type that has a value is true. Well, it depends on what you consider a value, right? Because, technically 0 is a value, right? And it depends also probably what language you're looking at too. So 0 is technically a value. It's not null, but it still evaluates as falsy. Yeah, but 0 has no value. Yeah, and it depends on how you define value. Because it can be assigned to to a variable, but it still will evaluate as false, or as falsy. Same with -0. So yeah, I mean, maybe play around with these a little bit. And once you in the Code Academy assignment, there's a legit section on this, so you're gonna get practice with it. I just wanted to mention it because I think it's cool, and I think the Code Academy lesson doesn't necessarily talk too much. Yeah, Truthy and Falsey are not concepts in all programming language. That is true. Yeah, that evaluates to true. This was a new concept for me. I hadn't used it before because my background in SQL, it's not a thing, or at least not that I'm aware of. And so I thought this was really cool and really awesome. And it's just basically built-in, input validation. And I think the Code Academy didn't necessarily talk too much about like potential practical uses for this. And I like to think in practical terms. So immediately I thought, oh man, yeah, you can assign this on, your input validation and really just sanitize your inputs. Yeah, -0 is not a concept in math. Yep, you're right. What about string 0? Oh yeah. What about string 0? So let's try that. Yep, let's do it. Okay. Get this back up. Yeah, so we know that 0 is going to evaluate to falsy. Yeah, but let's do this. Hey, there's something there, right? Because it is a string, and that string is not empty. So it's a populated string. JavaScript doesn't care what's in it. It's going to pass this test. It's going to pass the comparison test. Okay. Now let's do one more here. Let's say null. So we know that null is going to evaluate to nothing. It's going to be a false value. But what if we put quotes around that null? Boop. Hey, that evaluates because again, it's a string. It has something in it, and this comparison doesn't care what's in there as long as it is going to evaluate. Or sorry, as long as it's not an empty string. Yeah. I use sometimes not 0. Okay, well, let's do that. So not 0. Yeah, so that evaluates. Yeah. So bang 0 evaluates. Did you cover the differences between equals versus equals? Yeah, so we didn't talk about that specifically, but we can. So when you're doing, when you're evaluating, whether a statement is true or not, you notice that I'm not super consistent. I should be better. But sometimes I would use double equals, and sometimes I would use triple equals. So like up here, I use triple equals, and down here I use double equals. There is a difference. So, and that difference can be kind of crucial. So if you're using the double equals sign, what that's going to do is it's not going to be a strict comparison. So we could evaluate, we could say, let's just do this real quick. So we're going to set word equal to 1. And I think if we do like that, let's try that, see what we get. Yeah. So in this case, we're comparing a number to a string, right? We're saying if number 1 equals string 1, then, if that's true, then print, hey, there's something there. But let's see what happens if we add one more equal sign. Oh no, now it's false. That's because that third equal sign makes it a strict comparison, which cares about type. So it cares. Now that we added that third equal sign, it now cares that it is comparing a number to a string. With just the 2 equals, it's gonna do sort of like a relative comparison. With a 3 equals, it's gonna be strict. So it's gonna care about type. And so the number of equal signs that you use does matter. In the cases where I was like, I knew we started out with a word, and it was always going to be a word, and it was never going to be anything but a string. I just used 2 equals, but I mean, I think like the Code Academy training and stuff like that, it's going to tell you to use 3 at all times. And I mean, that's not bad practice, just, because you don't want to get messed up by like a type mismatch. Yeah. Yeah, so double equals value, and well, and yeah, and triple equals value and type. Yes, exactly. Yes, that's exactly right. And yeah, Ryan, you're right. Leon covers it quite a bit. I believe he even has like a whole like little image that he shows, where it's like it shows a variety of different comparisons: double equals, triple equals, not equals, and shows the result for each. So yeah, if you review some of Leon's past lessons, he talks about that quite a bit. Yeah, in this case, when double equals is between a number and a string, it will attempt to convert the string to a number. Yeah, in Turkish, you're right. If else is the most important thing after arrays. Yep. And yeah, knowing how to properly use if else statements and how to properly execute them is extremely vital. So, just keep practicing them and mess around with them and see what you get. But yeah, I think Truthy Falsey. So I did have one more thing on here. Can you make Fizzbuzz more dry? And by dry, I mean do not repeat yourself. But I think it's been about 2.5 hours, so I think I need to wrap it up. Got some things to do here before I go to bed, but I did get through a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to look and see if anybody else has any more questions here. Have you ever tried string 2 minus, let's see, what is that? Have you ever tried 2 minus 1? So yeah, actually, JavaScript is pretty good about comparing strings to, or performing operations on strings to numbers. I know we talked earlier about how using the plus sign on, on 2 strings or on a string and a number will concatenate it, but that's really, with the other operators like minus and multiply and divide, I mean, plus sign is really the only one with like a double meaning, where it could be concatenate or it could be add. The other operators are really going to try to force that conversion to number and perform the operations pretty effectively. Yeah, no problem, Ryan. Switch statements were mentioned earlier. I'm wondering what scenarios you would use switch statements or conditional ternary operator. Yeah, so switch statements can be really useful when you have a lot of cases where you want to do a direct comparison. So let's say you had just a massive inventory of, like, say, groceries, like 20 different fruits, right? Like apples, oranges, bananas, pears, star fruit, berries, all like 20 different fruits. You could do a bunch of if else statements, and say like, okay, and let's say, so you had this like list of 20 fruits, and the user is going to input which fruit they want to get some information on. So your statement should take in the fruit that the user wants some information on, and then return, evaluate a statement that's then going to return information on that particular fruit. Well, think about writing an if statement with like 20 conditions. It's going to be a lot of repetition, right? Because you're going to say like, if fruit equals pear, if fruit equals pear, then do the thing, else if fruit equals apple, then do the thing, else if fruit equals berry, then do the things, else if fruit equals banana, then do the thing. So it's a lot of repetition, right? But with a switch statement, you only have to write the thing that you're comparing. So you're going to say, essentially you're going to say like switch fruit, and then you're just going to list out a bunch of cases. So case apple, case pear, case, pineapple, case banana. And so it's going to be a lot more compact and a lot less repetition if you write it out that way. And so you can look up examples of switch statements. And if you look at them, they're basically built to remove that repetition that you would get in an if statement and be more compact when you have a lot of similar cases that you're doing a direct comparison on. So yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, Rascal's right. The minus operator converts the 2 to a number. Yep, JavaScript is really good about that. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Safety. Hey, no problem, Hippie. I'm glad you got some benefit out of it. Oh, yeah, Korishama. I'm wrapping up. I've been streaming for about 2.5 hours now, so getting a little tired, but I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. However, you can find the VOD on my Twitch channel. So by VOD, I mean video on demand. And you can replay this stream at any time at your convenience whenever you have time. Oh, thanks, Torboy. Glad you enjoyed it. Awesome. Glad you enjoyed it. Fights with umbrellas. Yep, Rascal has posted the VOD in the chat, so you can watch that. Korshama, do you know something about symbols? I'm not sure. There's a lot of symbols in JavaScript. It depends on which ones you want to know about. Yeah, Turkish, you're right. You could do that. You could create an object with options in it. We haven't really gotten there yet. We're still kind of in beginning JavaScript. So yeah, there's, the cool thing about JavaScript is there's a ton of different ways you can do everything, right? You can always keep simplifying and streamlining your functions. But for now, we're really focusing on the basic conditionals and the types of things you can do with those. Symbols in general. Oh yeah. Good night, Hippie. Have a great night. Symbols in general. Symbol type. Okay, yeah, I hope that answers your question. Thanks for posting that, Rascal. Korishama, when do we stream again? I have my schedule actually posted on my Twitch channel. I generally stream on Wednesday evenings and Sunday evenings. Sunday, I should say, evening in Eastern time. But yeah, you can check my schedule. It should display my stream times in your local time, wherever that is. So yeah, just check the schedule on the channel. Favorite thing is my whiny cat. Well, thanks. I'm glad y'all enjoy him because he's not going to stop. Yeah, last thing I do want to mention is, one thing I didn't talk about, can you make Fizzbuzz more dry? And somebody mentioned that too, one-line Fizzbuzz. I found an article about optimizing Fizzbuzz. And so, if you're asked about this in an interview, you might you might look at this article and, and think about, man, if I was asked about this in an interview, could I just absolutely wow the interviewer by like writing it out and then optimizing it? So we didn't get to that. But here I'm going to share, here's the article, and I'm going to share the link here in the chat so you can look at this on your own time. I'll post it here. So yeah, take a look at that if you want. It's about optimizing Fizzbuzz. And yeah, Ryan's posted my schedule. Thank you, Ryan. And yeah, there's the Fizzbuzz article. Yeah, any last questions before we sign off for the night? I really enjoyed this. Bracco's got some ideas. Yeah, try it out. Oh, last question. Okay, yeah, great. Good question. All right, so Mirabek. Yeah, thanks, Rascal. Have a good one. Oh, good, Florence. I'm glad it worked for you. Yeah, so Mirabek. So going to talk about the syntax of that $I bracket. Yes. Okay, so let's look at an example of that. Let's look at our Fizzbuzz back up here again. Okay, let's reload this. That's still posting there. Okay, I might have to close this and reopen. Okay. We're going to uncomment this so we can look at it a little better. Yeah, so what that bracket, $ bracket allows us to do is, yeah, Korishama. It's okay if you don't understand the article. It's written for Ruby. It's just more of a think piece. It's sort of conceptual, and we don't have, you don't have to understand it. It's written in a different language. It's written in Ruby, but it just talks about different possible ways you could optimize the Fizzbuzz problem. So you can think about it in sort of a general sense and see if maybe you could apply some of the concepts to the JavaScript version. Yeah, okay, so I bracket, sorry, the $ bracket I. So that's a newer way of writing, incorporating a variable into a string. And so the previous method would have been something like this. It would have been something like, we would say I plus sign, quote marks, is Fizzbuzz. So we'd say something like that. But using using a tick mark instead of a quote mark and then $ bracket variable allows us to format our strings in a little bit more readable way. So like when you get longer strings where you're including multiple variables, oh, that's why they kept appearing. I didn't comment that out. Gosh dang. All right. Let's find a good one. We had a good example up here top. Where is it? Yeah, so this is a good example. Okay, so we earlier on in the stream we did the times tables, and so if I was to write this out using the traditional notation, I would say something like, I'll just copy this here. I would say number, and then I would have to use the plus sign, and then I would have to use quote marks, space, multiplication sign, because I want that to be part of the string. I don't want to actually perform the operation. Then I would need another plus sign to concatenate I plus quotes, space, equal sign, space, because needs to be part of the string. And then I would say plus sign, and then my last variable. So like that's pretty cumbersome, right? And it doesn't look very readable. It's hard to tell exactly when you're first glancing at this statement. It's hard to see exactly what it's doing, right? Versus the first statement, it's actually fairly easy. It's saying we're taking a variable, and we want a variable to print out inside of a string, and we're saying variable, and then print the multiplication sign, print the variable, print the equal sign, print the last variable. So let's see how both of these look in the console. Make sure I commented everything else out here. Oops. Okay, so we should just get this. All right, and reopen my template here. Okay, let's open the console and we'll see how that looks. And console. Whoops. Probably. Oh, whoops. I didn't uncomment the whole thing. My bad. All right. Try again. This should work. Yeah. All right. So this is going to essentially just print out a times table. Yeah, so it gave us, in both cases, it gave us the same thing each time. It looks exactly the same. What the result that we get is exactly the same both times. So 2 times 1, 2 times 1. They're visually identical, but this statement here is much easier to read. And it's just a newer notation, a newer way of writing it out. But do note that if you're not familiar with it, do note that we're using the tick mark here, which is the key that's just to the left of the one key on your keyboard. So instead of a single quote, we're using a tick. So if you look on your keyboard, so just to the left of the one key, you'll find the tick. So it's one of those keys that you never use, and now you might have to use it a lot. I hope that helps. It's just different notation. Putting the variables directly inside the string rather than concatenated using the plus sign. Oh yeah, I see there's some good discussion here on jQuery as well. Yep, and with Rascal and Brocco providing some good insights there. Thank you guys. Okay, well, with that, unless there's any more questions, thanks. Yes, yes, the cat is always a good assistant. And I promise I'll find some way to get his face on screen, whether that's a webcam or a photo. You'll get to see him. Okay, well, I think I'm going to wrap it up. So thank you all for your time tonight, and I had a good time. I hope you did as well. And once I reach affiliate status, I'll get some custom emotes. I'll get some channel points. And yeah, we'll get there eventually. So I will see you all. Check out the VOD, and I will see you all on Sunday evening. Alrighty, bye bye.